He came to let us know we could act like him, think like him, talk like him, and win like him. He says, of his fullness have all we received. Let me explain so you can understand. When he says of his fullness, he's saying of all of what he's got that fills him up. Everything of deity that is in him, everything that he's got of his fullness. Here he's not dealing with just a measure. He's dealing with content in terms of quality. He's dealing with content in terms of the severality of potentialities in him. All of his powers, all of his glory, all of his wisdom, everything that he represents, everything that is contained in him. You remember what he said about his Father and himself. He said, as the Father has life in himself, so has he given to the Son to have life, inherent life in himself. In other words, he didn't need more life from God. He didn't need anything from God. As God was satisfied to be himself and had everything to be dependent on nothing, he says, so has he given to the Son to be fully independent. He had inherent life. Now everything else had to have life from God. Now Jesus says, as the Father had life in himself, he gave the right, the power to the Son to have life in himself. Now he tells us in this 16th verse of the first chapter of St. John's Gospel of his fullness, of all that he's got, of all that he's got, we have received. Meaning, I've received of his ability, I've received of his wisdom, I've received of his knowledge, I've received of his glory. Everything that makes him who he is, I have received. So he says, in grace heaped upon grace. Wow. I'm talking Christ consciousness. You see, why was Jesus the way he was? You know, one day he was with his disciples, and water was getting in, the waves were boisterous. The water was getting into the boat, and Jesus had been sleeping at the rail. So they said, Master, don't you care that we perish? And he got up and said, peace. And the waves calmed down, and the wind calmed down. They looked at him and looked at themselves, and they said, what manner of man is this, that the winds and the sea obey him? What was Jesus like? Why was he the way he was? Somebody said, well, because he was the Son of God. That's not the reason. Turn to the book of Hebrews. Chapter 2. You know, sometimes if we don't read, if we don't study the scriptures, we lose too much. Hebrews chapter 2. Let me begin reading from verse 11 for you. For both he that sanctifieth and they who are sanctified are all of one. Did you see that? For which cause he is not ashamed to call them brethren. Now that's powerful. I want you to look at, let me read to you from verse 7. Thou madest him a little lower than the angels, for thou crownest him with glory and honor, and didst set him over the works of thy hands. Thou hast put all things in subjection under his feet, for in that he put all in subjection under him, he left nothing that is not put under him. But now we see not yet all things put under him, but we see Jesus, who was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he by the grace of God should taste death for every man. For it became him for whom are all things, and by whom are all things, and bringing many sons unto glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through sufferings. Verse 12, saying, I will declare thy name unto my brethren in the midst of the church, and I will sing unto thee. And again I'll put my trust in him. And again, behold, I and the children which God hath given me. Oh, look at verse 14. For as much then as the children are partakers of flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same, that through death he might destroy him that hath the power of death, that is the devil, and deliver them who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage. Look at verse 16. For verily he took not on him the nature of angels, but he took on him the seed of Abraham. Now all the scriptures we just read, what are they telling us? That Jesus did not minister as the Son of God, but as the Son of Man. He lived and functioned as a man. Not in his glory as the Son of God. That was to let us know that whatever he did, men could do. Are you getting it? So when you read about Jesus in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, don't think of someone who lived in such a way that nobody could do what he did. No. He came to represent man. He came to live the way a man should live. He came to show us an example that we should follow his steps. He came to let us know we could act like him, think like him, talk like him, and win like him. So why did he live in such mastery? How come he was so successful? He thought the right thought. He said the right word. He did the right thing. He went to the right place. Why? He was fearless. Absolutely fearless. How could a man be so fearless? He had no consciousness of lack. He had no consciousness of need. How could it be that way? What manner of man was Jesus? Yeah. He must have been conscious of something that others didn't know. He must have had a consciousness that others didn't have. You get it? There must have been something that Jesus knew that others didn't know.